Let's build Lord Ainz Ooal Gown in Dungeons & Dragons, otherwise known as how to make the most broken necromancer possible, because this is D&D builds where we have an outlet to make all sorts of ridiculous Dungeons & Dragons characters and stop driving the people in our lives insane with them. Lord Ainz Ooal Gown, and yes, I will say it like that every time in this video, is a super overpowered main character from the anime Overlord. He leads armies of undead against his enemies and destroys anything that stands in his way, either with those undead or with insanely powerful spellcasting. And there's two key points for how to make a truly overpowered caster to dominate the undead. So first we'll dive into how to make an averagely broken undead necromancer with as massive of an undead army as we can build. Then we'll really dig in and show how to break things the way Lord Ainz Ooal Gown would. So first things first, we need to pick a race. That's pretty easy, we're going to pick a Reborn. It's one of the few races in Dungeons & Dragons that connects to being an undead more than most others. Not to mention, the anime is an Isekai, which means a character is brought from another world, so you can say the name Reborn leans to him being reborn in the new world. This race even has the feature Knowledge from a Past Life, so you can remember your old world you came from. Also, this race has a feature called Deathless Nature, giving you advantage on all saving throws against disease and being poisoned, as well as giving you resistance to poison damage. You have advantage on death saving throws, you don't need to eat, drink, or breathe, and you don't need sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. Then when it comes to choosing a background, he is Lord Ainz Ooal Gown, so we're going to go with a noble. This has a unique feature called retainers, so you can actually have people that are in service to you and loyal to you and your family, or the Great Tomb of Nazarick. This background also gives you proficiency in history and persuasion, and then before we even touch any stats, we should talk about a class, because Lord Ainz Ooal Gown happens to know an insane amount of spells, and the class that learns the most spells, despite being referred to as the Sorcerer King, is really a wizard. So we're gonna go with wizard for our class, and wizards get all of their bonuses from intelligence. So rather than dive into stats at every step of the way like we would with some of our other builds, all you really want to do is just focus most of your stats on intelligence, and then try not to ignore constitution or dexterity, as constitution improves your health and your ability to concentrate on spells, and dexterity will help your armor class, especially with mage armor. But I would definitely pick up one feat along the way, which would be resilient. This will give you a +1 into your constitution as long as you choose constitution when you choose the feat, and it will give you proficiency in constitution saving throws, which will help with concentrating on spells. And wizards are surprisingly straightforward, at least from the overall features of the class. You get to choose 2 skills, so we would just grab Arcana for general spellcasting knowledge, and Investigation, because it relies on the heavy-duty intelligence that you would have. Then of course the big thing with wizards is the spellcasting, and you can have tons of spells in your spellbook, pretty much unlimited, but the amount of spells you can actually have memorized is equal to your intelligence modifier plus your wizard level. This is going to be very important, so remember that for later. Then early on in wizard at level 2, you get to choose a specialty, so of course we're going to go with necromancy. When you choose this subclass at level 2, you get necromancy savant, making it cheaper and easier to copy necromancy spells into your spellbook, and grim harvest. So when you kill a creature with a spell of 1st level or higher, you regain health equal to twice the spell's level and 3 times the spell's level if it happens to be a necromancy spell. Then when you become a 6th level necromancer, you get Undead Thralls. So you automatically learn the 3rd level spell Animate Dead, which allows you to create a zombie or a skeleton. But this feature allows you to summon an extra zombie or skeleton when you use it. Additionally, any undead creature that you create using any necromancy spell gets additional hit points equal to your wizard level and bonus weapon damage equal to your proficiency bonus. Then at 10th level of being a necromancer, you gain the feature Inured to Undeath, giving you resistance to necrotic damage, and your hit point maximum can't be reduced. Then finally, the last feature you get from this subclass at 14th level is Command Undead. So you can take permanent control of an undead that you can see. It has to make a charisma save to resist it, and it's harder to take control of smarter undead creatures, but this does rely on your spell casting DC to resist, which happens to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. So at high levels, the creature has to beat a 19. at least for now. Then you get some additional features at high level wizard, like at level 18 you can choose a first level spell and a second level spell, and you can cast them for free constantly as long as you're only using their base level. And then at 20th level you get signature spells, so you can have 2 third level spells and cast each of them once without expending a spell slot. But that's just the basics of making a necromancer wizard. So how do we break it? Well, the first way to get a little nuts with it before we go full-blown Lord Ainz Ooal Gown is with the combination of a few spells. There's a spell that most wizards take called Simulacrum. It essentially creates a duplicate of yourself, but it just can't regain any spell slots, which has its own game-breaking possibilities, like having that Simulacrum cast Wish to create more Simulacrums of you, creating essentially an entire army of copies of yourself, but we're not going that route. So ignoring the whole Simulacrum thing, just to start, with Create Undead at levels 8 and 9, you can make 5 whites. Each of those whites can control 12 zombies. That's 65 undead with just 2 spell slots. Then you have access to the spell Finger of Death, getting you an additional 2 permanent zombies for the day, because each time you cast Finger of Death and it results in killing an enemy, that enemy rises up as a zombie. Then, if you use your Necromancer's Command Undead to command a Mummy Lord, it can cast Animate Dead to create and control up to 29 different zombies or skeletons. Then, just as a Necromancer wizard, you can use Animate Dead repeatedly to make 78 more zombies or skeletons. So with just 2 days of prep time and 1 Simulacrum doubling up a lot of stuff, you can have 2 Mummy Lords thanks to your Command Undead from you and your Simulacrum. Each of those Mummy Lords has 29 zombies or skeletons from Animate Dead. You have 5 whites, your Simulacrum has 5 whites, each of those whites has 12 zombies. You have 78 zombies or skeletons with your Animate Deads, your Simulacrum has 68 zombies or skeletons with their Animate Deads, plus an extra 2 zombies per day with a little bit of playing around with Finger of Death, granting you 339 random undead to use with just 2 days of prep time. But there's actually a simpler way to get a lot more undead, but you just have to have the right conditions. And this is totally going to depend on what kind of creatures you run into and what kind of undead army you want at your disposal. Because thanks to the 9th level spell, True Polymorph, you can turn into one of 2 creatures. The first of which, instead of turning into, you could actually just control with your Command Undead feature, and that's an Atropal. It's actually a huge undead, and it looks surprisingly like Victim, the Guardian of Nazarick from the anime Overlord. It has an ability called Summon Wraith, and it doesn't require a spell slot. It just requires you to roll for a recharge, and on a 6 you can do it again. And the thing about Wraiths is that they can create more undead, creating specters. So if you want an army of wraiths and specters, you can really go nuts by using this creature, either turning into it with True Polymorph or taking control of it with Command Undead. But that part's going to be a little tricky because it happens to be a more intelligent type of creature. However, another route you can go is actually by not turning into or controlling any undead. You can turn into a type of dragon, because there's a special type of dragon called a young red shadow dragon. It also has a challenge rating of 13, similar to our Atropal, but instead of going one at a time like you would have to with your specters and wraiths and all that stuff, you can use a shadow breath. And that shadow breath also recharges on a 5 to 6, so it recharges even more easily. It creates a 30-foot cone of shadowy fire, forces any creature within it to make a DC 18 dexterity saving throw or take an average of 56 necrotic damage. If a humanoid dies from this, they are turned into a shadow and rises from the corpse immediately under your command. And shadows are pretty dangerous because they don't just attack your health, they attack your stats, and they do count as an undead. So they completely add to your army of undead that is ever growing. Just turn into a young red shadow dragon or have a buddy do it and target your local town, because Lord Ainz Ooal Gown doesn't really care about the lives of innocents. But that's how to get an undead army normally. How would Lord Ainz Ooal Gown get truly overpowered? Well, he would do it with money. In the original anime, the main character is playing a video game, and then he gets sucked into a world where he's permanently his video game character. The thing about that video game is it had loot boxes, and the main character dropped an insane amount of his money on those loot boxes, trying to get as many special items as he possibly could. So this is how to break the game, either with special items or just by bribing your DM, because with a little luck and enough loot boxes and money, you're going to come across a very rare item, because there happens to be special items in D&D that can increase your stats. So that DC of 19 that you have at max level, that can completely go away, because you can get tons and tons of tomes of clear thought, increasing your intelligence by 2 points and your maximum amount of intelligence by 2 points every time you read one. And that's not the only stat that can be improved. You can do it with your intelligence, your charisma, your constitution, absolutely everything. So now that all of our stats are broken, and you can actually have a completely unbeatable DC saving throw against all of your spells and abilities, not to mention you'll never lose concentration on any spell or ability, while also having absolutely insane health, and every single spell possible memorized, let's figure out the 3 powerful items to really boost up this character. Because in D&D, you can only attune to 3 items, and that's all we're really going to focus on is those attunement items. Granted, if you're an artificer, you can attune to more, but we're sticking with our wizard. First things first, we're going to grab our fancy robe, granting us the Robe of the Archmagi. It's an elegant garment made of exquisite cloth, and it's either white, gray, or black, dependent on your alignment. So we're going to stick with that black color because that fits the overall look of Lord Ainz Ooal Gown, and you get additional benefits like if you aren't wearing armor, your base armor class while you're wearing this is 15 plus your dexterity modifier. You have advantage on saving throws against all spells and other magical effects, and your spell save DC and spell attack bonus is increased by 2. So even if you didn't already get that boost from all those ridiculous books that you bribed your dungeon master to give you, having this robe will already boost you plenty. And we really want to complete that look with the other attunement item, Staff of the Magi. This will actually allow you to absorb spells as your reaction when somebody tries to cast spells at you, while also being able to use the energy you gain from those to cast more spells in return. It has tons of spells available to it, like Conjure Elemental, Dispel Magic, Fireball, Flaming Sphere, Ice Storm, Invisibility, Knock, Lightning Bolt, Pass Wall, Plane Shift, Telekinesis, Firewall, or even Web. Then it even has some abilities that it can cast for free, like Arcane Lock, Detect Magic, Enlarge Reduce, Light, Mage Hand, or Protection from Evil and Good. It can contain up to 50 charges, and each one of those spell castings does require its own amount of charges, but I'm not going to dive into all those numbers. However, with the charges available, you have the ability to do something very impressive, but you can't turn back from it, because you can use an action to break the staff over your knee or against a solid surface. The staff gets completely destroyed and it releases all of the magic it contained, filling a 30-foot radius sphere centered on you. You have a 50% chance of instantly traveling to a random plane of existence, which will allow you to avoid the explosion altogether, thankfully, because if you're stuck in that explosion, you're forced to make a DC 17 dexterity saving throw, and on a failed save, a creature takes an amount of damage based on how far away it is from the point of origin. So if you happen to be right in the middle or within 10 feet, you take 8 times the number of charges. So if it's maxed out, that's a hell of a lot. From 11 to 20 feet away, you take 6 times the number of charges, and from 21 to 30 feet away, you take 4 times the number of charges. So if you have a maxed out staff and you're within 30 feet, you still at least take 200 points of damage. And you can even think that maybe this staff is how you got teleported here in the first place, since it does have that 50% chance of instantly traveling you to a random plane of existence. And just in case you happen to want to just smack somebody with this staff and not make it explode, you do get +2 bonus to the attack and damage rolls you make with it, and while holding it, you get +2 bonus to your spell attack rolls as well, which is also very notable because you don't actually have to cast through it, you just have to hold it. So you can actually cast using the last attunement item that is just absolutely unavoidable for anybody that wants to be an overpowered necromancer with an army of undead, and that's the Wand of Orcus. Even trying to attune to this item alone requires a DC 17 Constitution saving throw, because anybody other than Orcus himself, who is this insane demon lord, winds up taking damage even from succeeding on attuning to this item, equal to 10d6 necrotic damage. And if you fail on that save, you just die and you're raised as a zombie. But if you do manage to attune to it, the wand can be wielded as a magic mace that deals +3 bonus attack and damage rolls, and it even deals an additional 2d6 necrotic damage when you do smack somebody with it. But it is still a wand, so you can cast spells through it, and it even has other random benefits, like it has protection, giving you +3 bonus to your armor class, and you can cast a whole bunch more spells through it, like Animate Dead, Blight, Circle of Death, Finger of Death, Power Word Kill, or Speak with Dead. And this will allow you to increase your overall pool of undead just with those spells alone. But there's an even more powerful ability that it has, because it has an ability called Call Undead. You can use an action to conjure skeletons and zombies, calling forth as many of them as you can divide by 500 hit points. So you can have 500 different skeletons all with 1 hit point, or you can have one massive skeleton with 500 hit points. It's totally up to you. They only last for a day, but if you're just adding this to bolster your numbers, it's still a sudden powerful boost of your undead army. And I think that would be the ultimate loadout for any necromancer, but especially Lord Ainz Ooal Gown. But one last thing to keep in mind, if you happen to be that high level already and you're already bribing your dungeon master anyways, they might as well give you a bunch of epic boons. So you can have something like the Boon of High Magic, giving you an additional 9th level spell slot, the Boon of Quick Casting, allowing you to cast a 1st to 3rd level spell that would be an action and being able to cast it as a bonus action, Boon of Spell Mastery, allowing you to cast a 1st level spell from either a sorcerer, warlock, or wizard spell list, and you can do it at its lowest level without expending any spell slots, and then just follow it up with a whole bunch of other stuff like Boon of Irresistible Offense, Boon of Magic Resistance, Boon of Fortitude, boosting your health points, or even if you want to go in disguise and not look like a skeleton but more like a knight, you can grab the Boon of Combat Prowess, making it so you can't miss with a melee attack. Overall, if you're bribing your dungeon master, it's pretty much like playing on God mode. I know that was a lot to get through, but if you want an easy way to keep track of it, as well as the full build with all of the spells that I would include for Lord Ainz Ooal Gown. Although I won't be including the boons or the tomes boosting your stats, but I will include the 3 attunement items over on the character sheet that I'll have available for everybody over on Patreon, which is linked down in the description. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play as the most overpowered necromancer in existence, Lord Ainz Ooal Gown.